Present.
Member Dugan?
Present.
Member Pena?
Present.
Mayor Nicholson?
Present.
Okay, on the agenda is a new job we have a draft posting for a communications specialist, and maybe Dr. Tatlotta, you would like to?
Yes, thank you. So in your packet, there is a memo from me, a draft posting, as Member Capola just described. And rather than read the memo again to you, I just want to point out that I think we all know the importance of communication, school district, family, community. I think over the course of the past 2 years, we really, the understanding for the need for good communication deepened as we sort of navigated the pandemic. The district has taken some pretty substantive steps forward in terms of the tools that it has to engage in outreach. But I still think that we can do better. There is a capacity challenge, however. What I'm proposing this evening is a communications specialist, which would be a non-union 12-month position. And this is a person who would be responsible for frequent updates on our website, who would potentially lead the process to develop a new website, which we've already written a request for proposals for. This would be a person who could engage in frequent updates on social media to help us create a more robust presence on social media. This is a person who would engage frequently in the schools, bring a lot of the wonderful stories that are happening in our schools to the fore. This is a person who could liaise with other departments within the school department as well as city departments. This, in my humble opinion, is a position, the need has been long overdue. And I am coming here today to ask for your support with it. What was not in the, let me just point out what was in the memo was my intention to repurpose an existing position that was vacated due to retirement in my office. And I'm proposing a salary range of $65,000 to $80,000. That salary range is commensurate with not all of the existing positions in other districts, but certainly it captures some of the ranges that we've seen in other districts. And so there are others that are significantly higher. I should point that out, not lower. But we really think that we would be able to attract a qualified candidate at this rate. And just looking for your support, but happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yes, Mr. Castellanos.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tutwiler, for bringing this to our attention. I think my first question would be around just the research analysis that was conducted around the actual position. When you said that you looked around other districts, I know Salem Public Schools has a similar communicate. I'm actually. It's interesting because when I read through this, that's what I was seeing Salem Public Schools actually doing, which was. It's pretty interesting. Everett Public Schools also is another example but I'm not sure if they utilize this title or role. How did you come about this position?
So the title, I won't say it necessarily runs the gamut. I've seen communication specialist. I've seen director of communication. Director to me connotes leader of a team or a group, which this is not. This is a person who would be working hand in hand with myself and other folks across departments in the district. A big deal of what is in this posting actually reflects what happens in Salem. I distinctly remember a conversation that you and I had as the pandemic was becoming more of a challenge. And you asked me a question about, our Facebook page, and there's a lot of questions that people are asking, but no one's responding. We didn't have the capacity to do that. We didn't have a person who could consistently, mine that environment and provide answers to and who actually knew the answers, right? Salem does, and that person is called a director of communication. But I spoke at length with Dr. Zreich, as a matter of fact, even today, about this position, and the substance of what we're proposing aligns pretty closely with what they have.
And you said you vacated a position, I believe you said.
Yeah, so there's in my office, there are 2 confidential secretaries. One recently retired. I'd be looking to repurpose that position for this role.
You're going to combine the 2 position salaries with this. Is that what you're saying? So we're going to you said you're going to reallocate those 2 positions and keep the 65 to 80. Is that what we're saying?
I'm repurposing one position
Okay.
due to retirement, and this range is somewhat in the range of what a confidential would make.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, yes, Ms. Gately.
Dr. Tutwiler, you already answered one of my questions.
Okay.
And you know, like, I was looking at that survey today, and one of your highest points is your communication. Are you sure you want to give this away?
Oh, I will still be me. Don't get me wrong. I will still be communicating, but I'm not able to capture a lot of the things that are happening in the district. I'm not able to respond to people's questions on Facebook. I would love it if we had an Instagram page. I would love it if we had Twitter. I would love it if all the wonderful things that are happening in this district, could be celebrated through those platforms regularly. And if, heaven forbid, we have a challenge and we need to communicate, we'll do so through School Messenger, of course, but social media would also be another platform, and a lot of people go there with questions, and we would have a person. I would not be able to do that.
No, I understand, but one other thing is, upon seeing this position and seeing that it's going to be a confidential administrative assistant, has retired, we have a lot of hardworking clerks in our district that really would love to have the opportunity to go for this job, to bid on it. Would that be possible? So we have our clerks able to bid on it. They wouldn't be in the union once they got it, but it would open up the door to people that are already in the district that understand our districts and our district's needs.
So I think it's important to draw a distinction between the word or the action of bidding and applying. They would certainly be welcome to apply,
Okay.
but bid has sort of a different meaning, right? That almost there's a, how do I say this? It is not the same as applying for an open position, which they would be welcome to do if they felt like they, had the qualifications and the experience described in the draft posting. But I don't see this as a non-union position as something that would be bid on by anybody.
Okay. All right. Because I just know that they'll be disappointed that they won't be able to move into this job, but they could apply, but they've already worked years as a clerk in this district. I don't even have anyone in mind. I'm just saying that people get discouraged when they have been working years in Lynn, and there's a job that opens up that they could probably fit the bill, but they don't get it. So that's what I'm thinking about.
Well, I would go the cup half full approach and say, if their experience and qualifications matches the need, they'd have just as good a chance as anybody else.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Pena.
Thank you, Dr. Tutwiler. I support this position and, the proposal, and I admire, I appreciate you acknowledging the needs. And after reading the survey, you saw responses from the teachers and the parents, and communication is the needs of it. It's very needed right now. And especially after coming out, the pandemic and COVID, and I support this. I admire you acknowledging that, and it's the needs of the district, and I support it.
Mr. Castellanos?
Could I just also add, when I was reading this posted, in the essential duties and responsibilities, could we change, I know we say leadership and vision, because it's not a leadership role, admin role, would it be more appropriate to adjust leadership with something like innovative or just another word for, because if we're saying this isn't a leadership role, but it's not, if it's not, in the post in itself, the language, could we modify that? Would that be okay? Just so when it does go out, folks don't.
I can strike that altogether. Sorry. I mean, you don't need to have headings necessarily, but I
Just
can
as it goes out,
strike it.
folks understand they're coming in they're special, they're a specialist, they're
Or-
someone that's
or
coming
just-
in,
Or just vision.
yeah, vision, I think that's great.
What part are you striking, so if a motion goes through, what?
Under essential duties and responsibilities, such responsibilities are but not limited to, and then there's a heading in bold that says
Just the
leadership.
leadership word, only
Correct.
leadership word,
Yeah.
is what somebody's asking for?
Yes.
Okay, well, when we get to that point, you might have to do
Okay.
include that. Are there anybody else with any questions in regards to this? I have some questions then. Let's see. First, some of these things look like they could be already the responsibility in other job descriptions. You know, for instance, there's a part in here which concerns me, two actually things in here, but it's develop relationships with media contacts. I have no problem with that, and respond to media requests. I think that's like a superintendent, when I'm thinking of, like, when we're in, have something that's a crisis or a problem or something that needs to be spoken to in the media, you know, I think that belongs to the superintendent, and that's just a concern I have. You know, who's going to be responding to all of questions by the media in regards to our public school system? And I don't think that this job is the person that should do that. I definitely think that they should have a connection with media, but as far as doing, you know, responses to things, that's my concern. Well, you can think about that, but also
I can
then-
respond right now, actually. Right now, particularly related to any challenge or any significant issue, I'm the only one who, and would continue to be the only one. I really see this as being, you know, if this person were to pass along the statement or something to that effect, but it doesn't mean, you know, so much to me that it has to be there, so I'm fine striking that.
And down the bottom of that page, just the second bullet from the bottom, you know, that is kind of, that kind of gives me that same kind of feeling. You know, it said be available outside traditional working hours. I don't have a problem with that if the person wants to do that. For time-sensitive issues such as weather delays, crisis, school committee meetings, et cetera. That to me still feels, to me, something that should fall under the superintendent or, you know, pass to a deputy superintendent. But that's, I mean, other people can,
I'm not sure that I understand your concern there.
I just think that it's like crisis. So this person is, you know, a pay grade of 60 to 80,000.
Yeah.
And they're going to be available for, you know, weather delays, crises, school committee meetings, et cetera. That's, to me, is not.
So I think I can respond to your concern. So in the event of an incident, a crisis, a storm, I might craft a message that I want this person to get on all our social media platforms. They would need to be available when the need is there to get those things put out there. That's what that means. It doesn't mean that this person.
Just that it be clear that it always comes from you. That's, you know, whatever you can do to make that sound that, you know, messages, you know, in response to media requests or whatever, but the message is coming from the superintendent. That's
Would
what
it-
I would like to hear.
Would it be helpful if it said, be available to offer, outside of traditional offers, to offer support around traditional issues and, I'm sorry, sensitive issues and so forth?
And the other thing is, and I'm really not sure, but I know that there was some kind of, in regards to the confidential secretaries, there was some kind of a grievance over the years that, you know, when one of those was closed, it would be closed, but it would be, I thought the agreement was to open a clerk's position. I mean, this is where
Well,
Attorney Myhouse would be most helpful, but,
Yeah, I don't know anything about that, but if such a thing exists, then I will happily abide
Kevin
by
has
it.
the answer to it.
The agreement was when there were actually confidential positions that under Mass General law weren't like we weren't supposed to have those. There's only certain positions that have them. So when those positions closed, that person was grandfathered in as a confidential. Should they retire or leave the district, that position would revert to an office assistant. So we're not actually doing that in this place. We're closing a position in this case, because this would still, if you replaced this with another person, it would still remain a confidential, because the superintendent has the authority to have confidential secretaries.
Okay, what is an office assistant? I mean, do we have any office assistants in our?
Yes, there's
our
one in,
school
I know there's one in HR. I know there's at least one there. I'd have to think about if there might be one other or something around, but there was one in HR, because they originally, somebody over there, they know if there's somebody probably else too I'm missing, but.
Personnel,
Well, personnel, HR, so, yeah, so because there used to be originally a same thing, a confidential there. When that person retired, they changed it to an office assistant a number of years ago. That's why I'm aware of that situation.
Okay, well, would we be violating that agreement that we worked out
I would say
years
no,
ago?
because the agreement was if it was a position that wasn't required under the law to be a confidential position, and you were going to, that person left, you would just fill it with another position. The superintendent is position, if he had to keep secretaries, they would be allowed under the law to be confidential. So he still has a confidential secretary, we're just not replacing the other one. So we're closing a position and opening this position is the recommendation in front of you.
Then maybe it's not clear to me what you mean when when we close a confidential, we would replace it with an office assistant. So what kind of agreement did we have? And I don't know if,
There's an agreement that was put in place before I got here, and I've seen it, so there's an agreement with the union. For example, human resources or personnel under the law is not required to have a confidential secretary,
right,
but there was one.
exactly.
So that case, like, for example, I know the superintendent is allowed a confidential, the assistant superintendents, the business manager, and
Special ed.
and special ed. Those are the only four, if you read the law, that says that we have confidentials. Everybody else has to be a non-confidential position.
And I'm not questioning that at all. What I'm questioning is what we negotiated when we had to reduce them down. And you mentioned office assistant. So I'm just wondering, I don't want to be caught out of, something we negotiated, even if it was many years ago. I still want to stand by something that was negotiated. So if it was, and it has to be replaced with an office assistant, not meaning in that thing, but the job office assistant goes someplace?
It didn't state that you would replace somewhere else in the district. It said, should that person leave the district or retire, that was grandfathered in. If you replace that person in that position where they do not require a confidential, you would then create an office assistant. And that's kind of the case I was mentioning with human resources. There was a confidential. When that person left the district by retirement, we replaced it and put in an office assistant at that time and hired someone who's in the bargaining unit. So in this case of the superintendent, if we are not required to have multiple confidentials. And what we're doing is we're just reducing one and changing it, and we're not required by that agreement to put an office assistant somewhere else in the district. That wasn't the agreement. I mean, I could always find it and give it to our attorney to read it to verify that, but that's my understanding. I remember, this is something that I've seen in the past, and there is an agreement that was done prior to me coming on. That's pretty much my knowledge of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think this job would be a benefit in a lot of ways, so I'm not, opposing it. But I am concerned that I would like to have, Attorney Greenspan just get that, review it, and then come back the next meeting, just so that we're clear, we're not in violation of anything. That's only my opinion, but, yes, Ms. Gately?
Listening to the conversation with you, Kevin, the office assistant, did they have to have a bachelor's degree?
No.
But this new position, we would have to have a bachelor's degree. And I don't think a lot of the clerks in our districts have bachelor's degree, so that sort of cuts them out. So,
We do have clerical
Many
staff
clerks that
that
have
have bachelor's degrees.
no, I understand they do, but not all. Like, I don't want to cut anyone out that would want to go for this job, because it's a good paying job. And they wouldn't be qualified if they didn't have if they don't have a bachelor's degree. Dr. Tutwiler.
The other, if I may, if you feel strongly about keeping that position, then, the motion could be to add this and keep that position.
Sorry, I didn't understand what you meant. Add this job and then still keep another job
It's a retirement person.
as a confidential secretary?
This would be a standalone, separate position, and you could direct me to keep the position that I was going to repurpose for this. So there would be a communication specialist, and there would be 2 confidentials. But I'm making a proposal based on what I think, understanding now, having been in that office for 4 years, what I think is appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, I said before, I see the need. It is a serious need. People say it all the time. I think even when we were out there, as Magnolia was saying, as we were out speaking to voters, that it's difficult to decipher things that are put out there, and not enough information was put out. So I don't think anybody at the table is saying it isn't. I think it's a good thing. I just would like to have clarification, and not then afterwards have somebody come and say, you violated the agreement. That's all. I mean, replacing, that job, closing a job and opening it, and it'd be this person would probably be in your office. So it's, you're not losing staff, you're just replacing with a need that's a different need. So I have no problem with that, but I don't know how the others feel about, waiting. Yes, Ms. Magnolia.
Yeah, so it is my understanding that we can vote on the communications specialist as a separate entity from whether or not that position needs to be repurposed or returned. Because Dr. Tutwiler is suggesting that if the committee sees the need to have that position in his office as the confidential secretary filled again, we can have that as a separate motion from the personnel subcommittee. Is that correct? That we could act on this standalone and then act on that standalone? Is my understanding correct?
Are you saying then if we find out that the agreement was, to replace with another job, we have 2 salaries that we're having in a budget.
Absolutely, but I think Dr. Tutwiler has made a pretty compelling case for the need for this job. And that's what I'm saying, is that we can vote it up, we can vote it down, but that what he needs is this. And then we can deal with the other positions separately. Does that make sense? Because to my mind, whether or not he gets another secretary, the district still needs a communication specialist.
Exactly. Okay, so we're in a subcommittee right now, so that's myself, Ms. Magnolia, and Ms. Gately. Where do we stand on it?
I don't think I'm in personnel.
I think we get a roll call.
Oh, is it in personnel? I thought you were in
No,
personnel.
I think I'm policy and curriculum.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
I apologize.
You're
I am? Okay, sorry, I haven't had anything to do with personnel yet.
Yes, you are.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'd like to move that we accept the position with the amendments as stated, which include changing under the essential duties, the subheading to just read vision, and adding under education, experience, skills, and beliefs, to the bullet point that is the fourth from the bottom, to offer support in between, be available outside traditional working hours, and for time-sensitive issues. Would you like me to repeat that? Okay. I would like to move the position as proposed with these amendments. Under essential duties and responsibilities, the first bold subheading should just read vision. Okay. Then, under education, experience, skills, and beliefs, the fourth bullet point from the bottom,
No, the second.
That's the fourth.
the fourth, should add the phrase to offer support between the phrases be available outside traditional working hours and for time-sensitive issues.
Was there a change on the one up above under communication? That was,
Yes,
Mine is different.
yes. 1, 2, 3, fourth bullet down under communication.
yep,
It was develop relationships with media contacts, I'm sorry.
okay, that's all right.
We're striking. Okay.
Okay, is there a second?
Okay, Jeff.
You made a motion?
I made a motion, we're looking for a second.
No, you're not.
We can't, yeah.
I'm just only, I'm giving Lorraine a moment to think about it. Okay.
Lorraine had a draft from before, so just give her a second to locate the one that's in the packet.
Okay. And what are we gonna add on that fourth?
So let me show you. Right here.
Outside traditional working hours to offer support for time-sensitive issues.
Okay, second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Oh, Lorraine seconded it.
Member Capola,
Yes.
Member Gately,
Yes.
and Member Magnolia?
Yes?
Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
No.
Oh.
Motion
Second.
Send, move to the full committee. Okay, thank you. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Roll call.
Member Capola,
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Magnolia?
Yes.
Citizens to express their views on matters of concern to the school committee. These sessions are not designed to encourage debate or lengthy exchange of views, but are to have the committee understand numerous points of view. The committee would appreciate speakers keeping their presentation in 3 minutes in order to accommodate as many people as time permits. The chair reserves the right to limit the number of speakers on the same topic to 3. All speakers must be 18 years of age or enrolled in high school in the Lynn Public Schools District and having discussed their views with a student government representative. The chair reserves the right to rule the speaker out of order if he feels that the speaker's comments are personal in nature. If a speaker's comments are directed at a school committee member or a member of school administration in attendance, that member, through the chair, may address the individual. The sessions will promptly commence 15 minutes prior to the start of the regular school committee meeting. Is anyone here signed up for open mic? Yes, please. You can just state your name and address, please.
My name is Richard Germano. I'm president of Local 1736. I'm not here to debate it, I guess. I just want to make you aware, Patrick and Kevin are aware, there was a problem years ago with confidentials. There were too many in too many different departments. The state came in and cut them. So the agreement was that if those positions that weren't eligible under the state law as confidentials, they would be filled as office assistants. That being said, it says in the agreement, these members would come through our union as permanent civil service employees. So it is taken away from my members' chance to advance in this department. So they would be the first ones. There was no qualifications of a bachelor's. I'm not disputing the job that he had, but I don't know if he hired an office assistant, they couldn't do the job as well. I don't know how in-depth it is, but I will say that, I don't know, am I wrong, Patrick? Dr. Tutwell, is it three confidentials that are supposed to be in your office, you and the 2 deputies? I believe that was the agreement.
What if you want to just conclude? I mean, Dr. Torwell can respond, but we're not supposed to go
Yes
back
or
and
no?
forth.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be my question, one of them. If not, then the cutting of the position would be an office assistant. And if not, it's taken away from my membership, higher paying jobs. Okay? I just wanted to let you know that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
Sorry, just real. Yeah. So if a speaker's comments are directed at a member of the school administration, the member, in this case, the member of the school administration, through the chair, may address the individual. So we just wanted to.
Yeah, Rich and I have a good relationship, so that was weird for me. I'm following the rules here, but I will follow up with Rich on his questions, and of course we're going to research and find whatever the agreement was, and get back to the committee on that. Sorry about that, Rich.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Anyone else for open mic? Anyone else for open mic? Nobody else from open mic. All right, we are closing the open mic. Roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
Present.
Member Capola?
Present.
Member Dugan?
Present.
Member Gately?
Present.
Member Magnolia?
Present.
Member Pena?
Present.
Mayor Nicholson?
Present. Please rise for the salute to the flag, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Recognize Joan Rogers, teacher at Fallon Elementary School on February 16th, 2022. Maureen Ann Ferrari, former teacher on February 17th, 2022.
Mayor, can we also remember the people in Ukraine, especially the children?
Thank you, Member Capola. Thank you. First item on the agenda is the minutes.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of 3 meetings, the minutes of the public hearing on February 10, 2022, the minutes of the meeting, or the Committee of the Whole meeting on February 10, 2022, and the third regular meeting with executive session on February 10th, 2022.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Magnolia?
Yes.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Mayor Nicholson?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is presentations. We have Best Buddies.
Come on down, Cameron.
All right, yeah.
Sorry.
Mr. Dugan, would you like to say something, or would you like for me to?
No, yeah, that's fine, you can. Dr. Tutwiler, yeah.
No apology necessary. So this evening we have Cameron Maloney, who's a student at Lynn Classical, who's going to talk to us about the Best Buddies program. And Cameron, as you can see, is supported by a full complement of special education educators here to support him, both district and I think I see the Lynn Classical Department, SPED Department Chair as well. Hello, good evening. There's but there's a thumb drive right there hanging out in the screen. If he can put it on there.
It's a PowerPoint.
Try it.
Okay. Remember what happens with the.
Yeah, but
Let's give it a try.
let's give it a whirl.
Could we email it? Could he email?
Doesn't have USB?
I can always just email it to,
I have my laptop.
yeah, I can just email it.
Can you email? Can you? Yeah. Where there's a will, Cameron, there's a way.
Figure this one out.
There's no USB port.
Oh, okay. Do you want to pop that back in the USB back in the screen there? Because there's something on there that we'll need later. Thank you, kind sir.
I apologize for the.
There's no apology necessary.
No problem.
Take your
We're
time.
excited to hear
Take
from
your
you.
time. We're not,
Got plenty
we're
of
excited to see this, so just.
We've been
Okay.
waiting for this for a couple of weeks
day.
now.
So,
He did.
I don't know, it's a student laptop, I don't know what's the limitation now.
boy.
Well, it doesn't have a
USB.
USB port.
USB.
USB port.
Oh, I thought it was the HDMI.
It doesn't have that either. Yeah, it's a Chromebook. Yeah.
It's my phone. That ringer? Yeah. So, my hands like conditioned.
Operant conditioning.
Yeah, it's rough. That phone ringer like around on my day off. I'm like, wait, no, okay, we're good, okay.
Top left, there you go.
This is excellent practice for when you're in college and everyone has a
Yep.
different device, and the network does not like some, but does like others.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't.
No, don't worry about it. I'm just saying, you gotta develop your skills so that when this stuff happens, you know how to roll with it.
Dealing with adversity and executing you know what? We're so excited for this, trust me. We get to see how you prepared under pressure. No pressure.
He's doing great, right?
No, he's good.
So how's things in English?
I would have buckled.
Like his dad, because right now I'd have a panic.
Not a,
He's among friends. It's all good.
My leg.
yeah. Oh, I would have been sweating.
You know, it's very
I would
interesting.
have take a walk.
We got a turn. I am
Yeah.
the school adjustment counselor in Somerville
Yeah,
and
right.
special
Whatever,
ed.
guys.
And we've had the Best Buddies program forever.
Yeah.
So it was quite a conversation Cameron and I had many months ago that here in the city, they did not have it implemented. So
Yeah.
I'm just hoping this will carry over to the other two high schools.
Yeah.
It's fabulous.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good stuff.
Absolutely.
Are you mom?
I'm mom.
Okay,
yes.
okay. Spokeswoman, I love it. I love it already.
Sometimes it's a lull.
You know, the hype, you know, everyone needs that hype person, you know?
Uber as well.
Yeah.
He said Uber. That's great.
I love it. The chips are high.
All right, we're easy.
Ready to go,
Awesome.
Cam? All right. So,
Awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's go.
All right, Cameron.
All right, starting from the top.
Awesome.
Great.
Sorry, everyone, for that little.
That's fine.
Don't
All
worry
fine.
about it.
All good. All good.
Don't mean to hold anything back. But,
you're not.
So, I'm just here to quickly, briefly introduce the Lynn Classical's Best Buddies Friendship Program chapter. And it was introduced as of this year. We had planned to start it my sophomore year, which was 2 years ago, but obviously external circumstances had influenced that. So this is the first year of the running program. And as I'm not sure if many of you are familiar with it, some of you I know if there's any sports fans, Tom Brady had endorsed it for many years in his time in New England. But the organization overview is Best Buddies is an international nonprofit organization dedicated to establishing a global volunteer movement that creates opportunities for one-to-one friendships, integrated employment, leadership development, and inclusive living for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, or IDD. So within Lynn Classical and hopefully the rest of the Lynn Schools programs, we are going to focus on the one-to-one friendships aspects of it and more information on that. So the friendships program. The program is designed to build one-to-one friendships between people with and without intellectual and developmental disabilities, and offering social interactions while improving the quality of life and level of inclusion for a population that is often isolated and excluded. Through their participation, people with IDD form meaningful connections with their peers, gain self-confidence, self-esteem, and share interests, experiences, activities that many other individuals enjoy. And so a brief overview on how we've sort of formulated the program. So we started out with students were paired to one-to-one friendships through organic means and a variety of icebreaker games. We consistently meet bi-weekly during lunch and 15 minutes of our D period on Fridays. We want to hopefully extend this to a after-school aspect, but with rides, it's difficult to, especially in the early stages. Students have begun to interact socially outside of meeting times, creating genuine relationships, whether it be like lunchrooms or just see each other in the hallways. We've seen that sort of develop. And we currently hold a membership of 20 students with and without ID, and we're hoping to grow that to a larger number with the ability to do so. This is just a couple pictures. So this was our first meeting. We had just like a little setup. It was literally just like these folders contained information on it, on just the program and icebreakers. We bought little food, had a couple games, water. It was lunch, so we had to give everyone snacks and stuff. And this was the icebreaker. It was super simple. Lori Spencer helped me print it out. It was just like would you rather questions. And it was like, would you rather be born with an elephant ears or giraffe neck? It's super. It's literally just, it's not, it's low pressure. It's literally just supposed to be organic, one-to-one, genuine friendships. And so goals that we hope to facilitate for the future. We hope to facilitate outside of school events, as in like basketball games, football games, movies, seasonal activities, whether it be in the winter, like we go ice skating or organize something like that. Rides obviously are just a major issue with that, as well as funding, but there's a variety of ways that can be done. And we want to continue to grow membership, specifically focused on lower classmen, as the majority of our volunteers without IDD are juniors and seniors, and if we want the program to continue, we need to, or me and Lori need to push it to the sophomores and freshmen. And we want to emphasize an inclusion-based social culture for all students within classrooms, lunch, and all other facets of student life. And I just want to give a special thanks to Ms. Dunn, Ms. Merriman, Jessica McLaughlin, and Felicia Jamerson. We are very grateful for your continued support. This program could have been created without your contributions and approvals. And
Very nice.
that is all.
Excellent.
Good job.
Once again, sorry for the technical difficulties.
No.
Don't worry about it.
Good job.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is that his laptop?
Any questions? Yeah, Member Castellanos.
Questions?
Yeah, don't go away that quick,
I'm not
yeah.
familiar with
You can sit right there.
right here?
Yeah,
Back to us.
go in the hot seat, Cam.
Oh, no. Sorry, anyone?
Yeah, Member
Yes.
Castellanos.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for coming out tonight. It takes a lot of courage to step up there and just handle business like you just did, especially under pressure. You're going to notice in life, you're going to deal with adversity, and the way you just dealt with it, your public speaking skills are exceptional, and it was wonderful to hear from you. Best Buddies is inspirational. I follow the organization, and when you brought up Tom Brady, I remember seeing all his Instagram, everything about Best Buddies. It's a phenomenal program, and it really is. It fits a need, and that type of philanthropy is contagious. And to see that type of leadership, and to see that you care, and to have the team of people that you're thanking. To be honest with you, thank you. Thank you for your dedication, and thank you for speaking up and being a voice for those vulnerable individuals.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I would like to just put, when do we vote to support that? I don't know who wants to, I'm supporting it whenever we have time to support it and to put that into motion, so.
And right now it's strictly a Lynn Classical chapter, but obviously we hope to have the resources to spread it to English and tech, and yeah,
Well, thank you for planting the seed.
of course.
Member Capola, then Member Dugan.
I'm very excited for what you're doing. Good job. I did foster care for a long time, and I had kids that were developmentally delayed. And, sometimes they were sent to schools that weren't close to home, so they never made any neighborhood friendships, which is, kind of difficult. So when they would come home, sometimes they would tell me how lonesome they were in school, that nobody spoke to them. So to do something like that, the Best Buddies program, it's really, really important. So I hope that you do expand it and talk to those freshmen and sophomore. and get them going. And maybe if the other high schools see something like this, they'll want to do it too.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Member Dugan, then Member Gately, and then Member Pena.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo the other members' words. I mean, this was really great, Cam. A little side note, I've known Cam since he was just a little guy, right? In Wyoming Little League.
Dugan used to coach me.
We did, yeah. We had some good times. Member Dugan here, Cam. No, don't worry. Don't worry. So, but just, really proud of you. I know your parents are here. They must be very proud of you as well. And this is great. This was a really great presentation. Your public speaking skills were unbelievable, really good. And I think the teachers at Classical and Mrs. Dunn must be really proud of you. And I know a junior at Lynn Classical, too, with the same last name as me. That if you want to encourage him to get involved in this, that would be great. Yeah, but thank you, Cam. That was great. Awesome.
Christian Spates and Cole Finnegan are on it. So
Nice.
I'll
All right.
encourage them to-
Well, Wyoming kids. I love it. Thanks, Cam.
Member Gately.
I just want to echo what everybody else said. This is an awesome program. And I don't know, I had a niece that went to Classical that had special needs, and that would have been like a great program. But that community there is so supportive of students with special needs, and just having best buddies there to follow through. And when you go, there'll be more. So that's a wonderful, wonderful thing to see. Thank you very much for your service.
Member Pena.
I just want to say thank you for your presentation, and I commend you, for taking the leadership. As a parent of two children that special needs, had learning disabilities, man, you touched me. I'm so emotional right now. I don't even want to get emotional. Thank you. You have a bright future, and I appreciate you taking that leadership to bring this to the other children in the school, man. And I can't wait to vote for this. Like Brian said, I can't wait. Let's get it done. Let's make it happen. Thank you very much.
Cameron, thank you so much for the presentation. The presentation was amazing, and more importantly, the work that you're sharing with us, the leadership, the passion really comes through, and we so appreciate the work that you've put together on this, and thank you for sharing it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Please, Dr. Teller.
He was supposed to have the last word, but I didn't jump him. So I just want to echo everything that was said. Incredible presentation skills, but I think what we saw through that presentation is your heart. And leaders lead with their heart. And so I just want to commend you for your incredible leadership and for bringing this program to Lynn Classical. There was a word in one of your slides that is really, really important, and it's inclusive. One of the district's core values is inclusivity. And so I salute you for bringing that core value to life at Lynn Classical.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Great. Good.
Sorry.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Virgil.
All right. Well, that was wonderful, and we will continue with the presentations with a dual language program update. Miss Caldwell and Campbell, thank you.
Tough act to follow. Maybe we'll come back another week.
Stole it. She stole it. I was going to say the exact same thing.
While they're getting set up, if I may.
Please, yep.
We were actually supposed to have this presentation at our last meeting, but decided to move it to take up the issue around masks. 2 years ago, the committee had the fortitude and the courage to support the proposal to start a dual language program at Harrington. And the idea is to give you an update on that program. Then we came back to the committee again last year and asked for your support to start another dual language program at Connery, and you'll get an update on that as well. But before they begin talking, I just want to salute both Amanda and Rania for their incredible leadership and their incredible work launching these programs, which are flying as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you.
Hello again, and thanks for having us here tonight to give you an update on dual language education. Hopefully all of you were able to help yourselves to some compañeros, Connery and compañeros Harrington t-shirts over there. We know that we're missing medium-sized Connery shirts, so if you were looking for a medium Connery shirt, let us know. We'll let you know when we get more, and we'll get it to you. So just like our other presentations, you'll always see English and Spanish represented in specific colors. Spanish is always represented in red and English always in blue. This is a practice that's also used across our dual language classrooms in order for our students to leverage and access both program languages. And we included a couple photos there from our DL classrooms there on the slide. So this evening, we're going to start with an overview of our Spanish-English dual language programming. We're going to review some different program types and then update you on the implementation at Compañeros Harrington, as well as the program development and the timeline for Compañeros Connery. And then finally, we're going to end with some really exciting highlights that we've received from at the national level as well as the local level. And just to highlight our Compañeros logo, which was developed with the Graphic Arts Department at LVTI. The logo includes a bridge to represent how dual language is a bridge connecting cultures, community, and languages, and also represents the 3 pillars of dual language education, which we'll talk about shortly. The globe represents our students from all over the globe as we prepare them to be bilingual and biliterate global citizens. The phrase, somos bilingües, we are bilingual, was added by an LVTI Graphic Arts senior who was also in the initial class to earn the seal of biliteracy. And finally, each school has its own individual school logo on the Compañeros logo to individualize each program. So you'll see Harrington has their bumblebee and Connery has the Hornets. I'm sorry. Sorry. Connery has the Celtics. All right. So we want to start off by giving everyone some foundation in dual language, and we know our former members have seen some of this information, but we want to make sure everybody has the basic foundation. So research has shown that successful dual language programs are built on 3 pillars, which are the goals and outcomes of the program. The first pillar is bilingualism and biliteracy, the development of high levels of proficiency in both English and Spanish, as well as the ability to read and write in both English and Spanish. The second pillar is academic achievement. We know one of the primary goals of dual language is to graduate students with academic excellence in all subject areas in both languages. And finally, the third pillar, which is the necessary foundation for dual language programs, is sociocultural competence.
169.254.1. That happened when I was in here
I know.
earlier by myself.
It happened when we were in here setting up too.
But it'll stop.
I know.
Continue.
That was tonight's lottery numbers.
Did you catch him? What was the last one?
All right, so third pillar, sociocultural competence, heavily anchored in an equity-focused philosophy to provide students an opportunities from different backgrounds to collaborate in real-world application of language and grade level standards. This data graph comes from the work of Thomas and Collier, 2 well-known researchers in the field of dual language and bilingual programming. They collected data about how English learners perform academically in different types of programs for over a course of their academic careers and track that progress. It's clear to see from this graph that students enrolled in dual language programs, both one-way and two-way programs, are the only program model where English learners not only meet but exceed the average performance of their monolingual peers. Although many English learners in other types of programs appear to keep pace earlier in the grades, Their long-term achievement shows an ever-increasing gap between their performance and that of their English-speaking peers as they progress through school. This research continues to be validated and confirms that DL programs are the most effective approach to close the opportunity gap for our most underserved students, including our English learners. These non-negotiables were determined for our dual language program as what we need to stay true to in our program model. All decisions made about dual language programming are anchored in these non-negotiables. It's important to note that dual language programming is developed with equity at its core. Dual language is a 6-year commitment focused on the research around language acquisition, where 5 to 7 years is needed to develop academic and social proficiency in a language. Its programmatic, curricular, and instructional development focuses on the rigor of state standards with a focus on the assets of our students, their families, and the community. In DL programming, it's very important to elevate the status of the partner language in our schools, that's Spanish, because students are surrounded by English in and outside the school. So elevating the status of Spanish, such as the slide, which puts Spanish on the left side and English on the right side, and Spanish first in the title versus second, reinforces the value of that partner language. Another example is signage in school, which is bilingual, or making sure that all the resources available to students have an equitable representation across both languages. And then separation of languages is also important to highlight. Although students may switch languages as they navigate through content to make sure they utilize their linguistic and cognitive resources, teachers use the target language for instruction and don't translate materials from one language to the other. Rather, they use sheltered instruction strategies to support students as needed. This is important because content is never taught twice in English and Spanish, but explicit connections are made between languages using anchor charts or during designated English language development time. This is still me. All right, so now to dive a little bit deeper into what dual language program looks like in Lynn, because there are different programmatic models, but district demographics drive this process. In dual language, program models are either total immersion, known as a 90-10 model, or partial immersion, known as a 50-50 model. Both models have the same goals, but they follow different methods. Both Connery and Harrington, based on our student data, will both be total immersion or 90-10 models. The difference between total immersion and partial immersion is the amount of time in each language of instruction. Partial immersion, a 50-50, provides instruction in equal amounts at all grade levels, whereas a total immersion model, a 90-10 or an 80-20 in some cases, begins with a higher percentage of time in the partner language at the earlier grades before maintaining that 50-50 balance by 4th grade. While both models develop English proficiency effectively, the total immersion model is significantly more effective in developing proficiency in the partner language. This is true across all types of linguistic and racial backgrounds of students. The next slide talks about the language allocation. So what does language look like at each grade level as kids progress through the program? Since students will learn to read in Spanish first in a 90-10 total immersion model, and then learn to read in English after, which is called sequential literacy, it's necessary that students spend the majority of their time in kindergarten in Spanish to build those literacy skills. Although all DL programs eventually arrive at 50-50, program models are named for what the language allocation is in kindergarten. Kindergartners in the DL program will spend 90% of their instructional day, this does not include recess, specials, lunch, in Spanish, and 10% of their day in English. The amount of time in English will increase each year until 4th grade, when students will spend half of their instructional day in each language in 4th and 5th grade. Research has shown that the solid base of Spanish sets both Spanish and English speakers up for greater success, both academically and linguistically. Because English is a more commonly spoken language in the world outside of school, it's important for students to build this strong foundation in Spanish, both orally and in literacy, so that they are fluent in both languages at the end of the program. This next slide focuses on content allocation, so what content instruction will look like and which language is that content provided in. So based on the 90-10 program model, students will begin in kindergarten learning all of their content in Spanish, math, science, social studies, and Spanish language arts. Just like we have ELA in our other classrooms, here we will have SLA. All students, not just English learners, will receive what's known as English Language Development, or ELD. This is where students will work to take what they've learned in Spanish and transfer it to English. Beginning in 1st grade, students will begin to learn ELA, English Language Arts. Students will also begin to explore science and social studies in both languages through interdisciplinary standards-based units. It's important to note that students will receive explicit mathematics instruction only in Spanish for the duration of the program K-5. Students will be given ample time to connect their mathematical knowledge with both English and Spanish vocabulary. It may feel counterintuitive, but once you know the content of math in one language, you know it in every language. Students will just need time to build up the language of math in English, not the content of math. For example, we all know how to add and subtract. If you move to Germany, you would still know how to add and subtract. You would just need some explicit language development in German, such as the names of numbers, the words add and subtract, etc. And then you would be able to add and subtract in German. The same concept applies in the dual language program. Students will never relearn content in one language that they've already learned in the other language. Rather, through intentional and explicit language instruction, students will be given the tools to talk about the content in the other language. Now it's Amanda's turn to discuss the difference between a one-way and a two-way program and give updates on Harrington and Connery.
Thank you. Click it over for me. So Rania talked a little bit about what the two programs that the two schools have in common, which is that they're both 90-10 programs. When we talk about the classroom demographics or the makeup that each classroom has in its student body, that's where the two programs will differ. And this is based on the school's overall demographics. So this here is an overview of the difference between a one-way program and a two-way program. A one-way program means that all students are from a similar linguistic background and they're all actively requiring the same second language. The travel of that linguistic knowledge goes like a one-way street. So in our example here, everybody is from a Spanish-speaking background and they're all learning English. Another example would be English speakers all learning Mandarin in a program. So they still spend all of their time in that target language because it's a total immersion program. But the student demographic is just one language group acquiring a new language. In a two-way program, which is down at the bottom, approximately half of the students are from one language background learning the other language. The other half are from a different language background acquiring that original language. The language learning in this case travels two ways like a two-way street. So in our example here, and you can see in addition to the students who are Spanish speaking learning English, you have English speakers who are learning Spanish. Both program models are very effective at developing both English and Spanish proficiency, and so therefore the most important component is the existing demographics within the building. If you have roughly 50% of the students speaking the partner language, in this case Spanish, it can sustain a two-way model. If you have a large majority of students that speak one language, then it can't sustain the two-way model and you have to opt for a one-way model. So Harrington, for those that sat through our initial presentation about 2 years ago, Harrington is a two-way model. It has approximately 52% of its overall speakers have a home language of Spanish. It can therefore sustain that two-way model. In a two-way program, this is just really important to note, students from all language backgrounds are able to be enrolled in the program. We're using English and Spanish, but we also have students from Portuguese-speaking backgrounds, Khmer-speaking backgrounds, Greek-speaking backgrounds enrolled in the program. It's open to anybody from any linguistic background. Connery has a significantly different student body and a significantly different student demographic. Nearly 70% of Connery's students speak Spanish at home. It's therefore not feasible to have a two-way model, and its demographics are better suited for a one-way program. And so for the registration of incoming kindergarteners, which has started about a month ago, we are working closely with the Welcome Center to ensure that families at these two schools are aware of the dual language program and have the opportunity to request enrollment. We give folders, green for the Connery Celtics and yellow for the Harrington Hornets, to each family. The folders are in both English and Spanish, and they have specific information about the benefits of being bilingual, information about dual language programs in general, and information about the specifics of our own dual language program here. So a couple updates about our Harrington program. First, a big shout out to our Harrington team, which is already doing an enormous lift of our dual language program. The principal there, Lissa Jusom, and our 4 fearless dual language teachers in K and 1 are doing an amazing job with our students there. We opened in fall 2020 with 2 kindergarten classrooms. In fall 2021, our kindergartners moved to first grade, and we now currently have 2 kindergarten classrooms and 2 first grade classrooms. This coming fall, in September 2022, as we discussed last winter, we will expand downward to pre-K, and our original kindergartners from 2020 will move upward to second grade, and so we will have dual language available at Harrington from pre-K to second grade. A quick update on our enrollment at Harrington. Currently, we have exactly 100 students enrolled across the 4 dual language classrooms, those 2 kindergarten and 2 first grade rooms. And currently, the classrooms are either equal to or slightly higher than the enrollment in the English-only rooms at Harrington. This is done really intentionally because we want our dual language rooms to be a reflection of the larger school community, not something different or isolated or with intentionally smaller class sizes. We want them to reflect the size of typical classrooms in the Lynn Public Schools. And you can see the averages are listed in your packets there for both DL and the SEI side at both grade levels. All right, and so thus far, the academic data shows that our students in dual language are well on their way to meeting the 3 pillars of dual language. After the initial literacy benchmarking that's done district-wide, 77% of our kindergarten students, again, all of whom are learning to read in Spanish first, are at or above grade level in Spanish. And in grade 1, 70% are at or above grade level in Spanish and or English because they're acquiring both literacy types at that grade level. And these are some very lovely writing examples from our wonderful dual language students. On the left is kindergarten, and on the right is a grade 1 sample. Spanish is a very phonetic, syllabic, and very transparent language, which does allow our kids to engage in independent writing much more rapidly than they do in English. So in kindergarten, our kids are talking about different types of celebrations in their families. From top to bottom, it's a birthday celebration, actually a birthday celebration for his pet spider. The second one is a student noting that they eat spaghetti for Thanksgiving at their family. And the last one is about Christmas. And then on grade 1, you have a student showing how they would welcome a new student to their school by showing them around the school. All right, transferring over to our new building, Connery, and Glenda Colon and her amazing leadership team there have done an outstanding job of laying the foundation for their dual language program. We're going to give you a couple of updates there. This September, we'll be opening 2 classrooms at Connery. Just like at Harrington, we will begin in kindergarten and move up a grade as the kids move up in grades. Currently, as I mentioned, the Connery administrators, teachers, and staff are all participating in technical support, in professional development, to make sure that they're really ready for this program when it launches in September. And again, based on Connery's demographics, that program is the one-way program, which means all students in the program will identify Spanish as their home language. Although the students' proficiency or level in Spanish may vary, they will all have some exposure to Spanish. In general, the dual language work that's happening around the state since the passage of the Look Act in 2017 is exciting and thrilling to be a part of. We're really excited to work with leaders from around the state on this. And we're really proud to be at the forefront of that work. There are not very many programs within the state, and it's been exciting to help lead that work. Our dual language program has been featured in DESE's newsletter. We've had the opportunity to present the work happening in our program at various panels, and we've also started to work closely with other districts, supporting them and preparing them for the implementation of their own dual language program, sharing some of the lessons we've learned along the way.
I will also note here that Amanda Campbell and our lovely dual language coach Bailey Bogart will be presenting at the Multi-State Association of Bilingual Education next weekend, representing our curriculum work in dual language. She won't do that to herself.
Thank you. In particular, a couple of things that some researchers from across the country have highlighted is our program's alignment to the research, the amount of professional development that the district has supported us with, and that the school committee as well has financially supported us with to provide that PD to staff at dual language buildings, the collaboration within the district and our larger Lynn community, and for all the work we've done to expand our bilingual pipeline of educators. That bilingual pipeline is what allows us to continue to attract and retain our bilingual candidates staffing our dual language programs. Our curriculum has also been highlighted for its integration of the content and language standards, the linguistic supports that we provide, particularly for our Spanish learners as they're acquiring Spanish, allowing them to engage in meaningful content, and its cultural responsiveness, and that includes the materials that represent our diverse students and its alignment to social justice standards. And again, so much of the work that we've done in dual language is thanks to the financial support of the school committee and the district. You guys have made a tremendous commitment to our program, and we're really grateful for that. A couple updates on our fabulous staff. All teachers are required, if they're going to teach in a bilingual program, to hold a bilingual endorsement that was created by the state back in 2019. In order to earn that bilingual endorsement, teachers need to complete a DESE-approved bilingual education endorsement program, which constitutes 4 graduate courses, a Spanish language MTEL, and an internship in a bilingual setting. We currently have 5 educators who've earned this endorsement. They were among the first in the state to do so. We have an additional 10 educators who've completed their coursework and are awaiting a passing MTEL score or the completion of their internship. And we recently began a second cohort of 8 bilingual educators in that coursework through Boston College over the past year.
Congratulations again to Amanda Campbell, who has earned that bilingual endorsement.
Good thing I have my mask on so you can't see me blushing. We're also really thrilled to announce that Lynn was awarded a grant to the tune of $299,000. This is to support our bilingual and multilingual programming throughout the district. This, just as a note, was the largest award that was given to any district in the state. So we were really thrilled to receive that last week. These funds will be used to purchase multilingual and multicultural texts for all classroom libraries from kindergarten to grade 2. So we'll be using these funds to support not just the dual language classrooms, but all K-2 classrooms to provide classroom libraries. We'll also be purchasing books for school libraries, again, focusing on multilingual and multicultural books so that all kids will have access to texts with characters that look like them and in that child's first language. We will also be using funds to offer that same professional development that we've been offering thus far to bilingual staff across the district and to all staff in buildings with dual language programs. And this does include that coursework that we offer through Boston College for those interested in earning their bilingual endorsement. And then finally, we'll use funds to continue to work with colleges and universities to identify and recruit bilingual staff. We've thus far worked very closely with Boston College. I have to read it because I don't want to forget anyone. Boston College, Boston University, Endicott, Merrimack, North Shore Community College, Salem State, and UMass Boston. And we're really excited to continue to work with them and build relationships with additional teacher prep programs as well. We recently just started conversations with Northeastern and are excited to continue to grow that opportunity for students. Lastly, in addition to the panels and conferences we've been invited to, we have been featured by our dual language partner, Alexandra Guillemot, in national presentations and webinars, and in her upcoming book, which is shown here in the middle, called How Data Got Its Groove Back, which will be released later this year. And Alexandra wasn't able to join us tonight, but she did want to share a few words about her experience working with the Lynn Public Schools, and in particular, her work with our really amazing teachers and principals, and wanted to talk about the work that they're doing in service of our students, families, and community.
Hi everybody, this is Alexandra Sofia Villamor-Massel, CEO, Chief Equity and Achievement Officer at Azure Educational Solutions. I just wanted to share with you a little bit about our experience working with Lynn Public Schools and the amazing educators that are leading really amazing work for your students. I will tell you that we have worked with districts in probably about 47, I think we're up to 48 different states around the country right now, and Lynn is one of the best. They are one of the best for very, very critical reasons, and that is that they are friends of evidence. They leverage research, they rely on research, they work together cross-departmentally, from the literacy department to the math department, pre-K and early learning, to multilingual, and our SEL and social studies and humanities department, and especially our special ed department, to make sure that our students get the very best education that your district has to offer. It is rare for educators to be committed to doing the hard work of implementing research-based and evidence-based practices. It's not that this evidence isn't available, it's just that it's easy to fall to the easy path of scripted programs or off-the-shelf curricula that make all sorts of promises to our students, our families, and our communities, and don't often deliver when it comes to, in particular, the needs of our multilingual students. It has been an absolute honor and pleasure to work with Lynn Public Schools, and I appreciate the amazing support from every department in the community, in the schools, the school leaders, in making sure that the students always have guardians of evidence, guardians of promising practices, and utilizing data to really drive all the shifts and the decisions that support your students' success. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it from us.
Thank you. Questions from the committee? Member Dugan?
Yes. Well, first of all, congratulations on everything, and Amanda, on your endorsement. Congratulations. That's great. A lot of hard work, obviously, has gone into this, so I know I'm speaking for everybody. Really appreciate it. My question is about the data. You said that in K, 77% are at or above reading proficiency, and grade 1, 70%. What data are we using? Is it WIDA access, or what are we using to gather that?
Yep, great question. So recently, DESE mandated the use of a universal early literacy screener that's implemented district-wide in English and in Spanish, which, as a side note, we're really thrilled to see and have access to both languages for all of our students. And so that data comes from there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Member Pena, Member Magnolia.
Muchas gracias.
De nada.
Gracias. Como un miembro hispano del comité, yo agradezco y aprecio mucho lo que usted está haciendo. As a Hispanic member of the school committee, I appreciate you, and I understand it, especially someone who grew up in a home where, you know, Spanish was primary spoken. And, you know, it's extremely important to recognize and to acknowledge the need, you know, especially the majority of our students are Latino, Hispanic. And it's important to instruct them, you know, and teach them in Spanish, you know, and it's important to see our kids, especially our ESL students succeed, you know. I had, you know, this was initially, it was presented as a pilot. Is it still being presented as a pilot?
It was not presented as a pilot. It was
That's what I thought it
presented
was
because
presented
that
as a pilot.
6-year commitment to really align with the research of language development. So it was a commitment of the
Of
6
6
years
years,
at
yeah.
the initial approval stage.
Okay. So I had a little time to look at this last time. So there was something I wanted to touch on. Can you elaborate when on the old packet? I didn't see it now. It said you want to you have a explicit social justice standards component of the program. Can you elaborate on that?
Yep, absolutely. So the social justice standards come from the Learning for Justice organization, which is the educational arm of the Southern Poverty Law Center. And so we use those standards, which run in bands. So currently the kindergarten through second grade band of social justice standards are what we use as sort of the heart and soul of our units. In kindergarten through second grade, they focus heavily on exploring your own identity, what types of groups you're a part of, while still being just you, how to advocate for when you see unfairness within your community or the world, different things like that. And so those get implemented within the units. For example, as they're navigating through the community standards within social studies, they're also talking about how in some places, people don't have equal access to libraries, for example. They just read a book called The Biblioburro about how in some cases there's a burro that comes around and brings the books because not everybody lives within walking distance of a library. And so kids explore communities through that lens and then discuss what types of things they would want to see within their ideal community to make it fair for everyone.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yep. And congratulations on
Thanks.
Member Magnolia.
Thank you very much. I think that the data that you presented, the research you presented, it fits really well with this elementary school model, especially if we're talking about pre-K, K, and then that timeline. I'm interested, though, in what the data says and what the opportunities are for our students who are entering high school at the level of English acquisition that is so low that we have seen, because I know that once, you know, it's something that at the college that we're exploring, offering classes in dual language for the very reason that, you know, we don't want the language to be the barrier to the success of the material. And so I'm wondering what either the plan is, or if there are discussions about how to roll this out at that secondary level, middle school or high school, based on some of the successes you've seen with the elementary rollout.
Yeah, absolutely. The research is really clear on secondary programming too, that access to high quality language development in your second, or for many of our kids, their third language is really critical. And that the conversations for what that looks like should start early and often. Just like when we started planning our program, which opened in 2020, we started those conversations back in 2018 to make sure that we had a really long amount of time to plan a high quality program. And to be honest, we were incredibly grateful that we had given ourselves that runway, because in 2020, when COVID hit, the majority and the bulk of our planning was already well underway. And so we felt confident we could move forward. There were many places that had not given themselves that long amount of time and were really struggling in COVID to figure out how to get it up and running. And so secondary, we know in just, I think, 4.5 short years, our dual language kiddos will be in middle school and will demand a certain caliber of language courses, not just Spanish language classes, but content classes in Spanish. And that access to those as we create them for our dual language learners create a huge opportunity for our newcomers as they're entering the school to have access to things like Algebra 1 in Spanish, biology in Spanish, world history in Spanish. So you can really plan for all of your different types of demographics using dual language as sort of like the catalyst for that. In addition, there's a huge body of research that says that for our students who have been learning English K through 5, but struggling to read in English, that the very best intervention you can give them is actually Spanish language and literacy intervention. And so again, those Spanish language courses offer a huge opportunity for a third group of students. So we are having those discussions about what it looks like. The scheduling part is significantly different, but the research is the same, that it is really a great opportunity.
And I will also add that we've already begun initial conversations with an outside consultant who has worked nationally in developing dual language secondary programs, as well as those world language components that really bridge those two worlds, and really looking at developing a long-term timeline of how to make sure that we're creating that on-ramp to make sure that those opportunities are available for those different demographics that Amanda talked about, our long-term English learners, our newcomers, as well as our dual language kiddos, so that we're really providing multiple pathways for different groups of students and creating really an inclusive model so that our English learners our newcomers are benefiting from our dual language kiddos, our dual language kiddos are benefiting from our newcomers, and it all kind of works together. We're excited about it.
Yeah, another interesting thing to note is that for secondary programming, or for districts that have secondary programming, they report that the families who are enrolling in pre-K, K1, they get really excited to hear from high school teachers, from college professors talking about how much they love getting their dual language students, talking about the seal of biliteracy and things like that. It makes kindergarten families who are so nervous to entrust their babies to the public schools feel really excited, like that there's a long-term pathway for their kids to develop bilingualism.
Just as an aside, the college does also issue those seals of biliteracy, so, yeah.
Yep.
Any other? Yep, Member Capola.
Okay, I'm a little more encouraged because I've been, looking with a slanted eye and concerned about a lot of it, simply because we're having such a difficult time meeting the needs of some kids who should be getting services, and Desi has cited us on that. And so it's a real concern for me because we didn't have the staff for it. But I'm encouraged to see the part where, you have some staff and you have them lined up to fill that program without taking away from what we need to do for kids who need that 45 to 90 minute, program to work with them. So that piece was encouraging. You mentioned on the books, and I had people that have called me and, staff and concerned with a particular book that was purchased. And not in particular for maybe all the content, but the grade level is being used in, that they don't feel that they've been trained. And I haven't seen the book. I've asked Mary. Mary is, reached out to people to get me that book so I could see that book, and I still don't have that book. And so I haven't, other than literally going to one of the schools and asking if I can see the particular book they're talking about.
Is it a book in one of our dual language texts?
I'm not sure if it is in dual language, but, it's the alphabet book or A book. And maybe has nothing to do with you in purchasing of books.
If it's in, again, because the majority of our day is spent in Spanish, if it's
Okay, so maybe it's not your book. Okay, but, and the other thing is I'm wondering about the preschool because, all of our preschool slots have been special ed slots. So is that, how you're starting? They'll all be on ed plans and be starting.
So the pre-K classroom will be an inclusion pre-K model. So it will have some students on IEPs and some students not on IEPs, the typically developing peers. And so that's what it will look like. It'll be an inclusion model pre-K.
Okay.
It won't take the place of a substantially separate where all students are on IEPs. It will be in addition to those classrooms, and it will be a mix of both.
Yeah, and we did have classrooms like that before. So, but when space became a problem, we eliminated that, and they were all just, all children on an ed plan. So is it just going to be in those two particular schools that you're going to be doing that?
We're going to start with Harrington, with one classroom at Harrington, because one of the things we've learned from dual language is although we know that it's a really great model, it's only great if you plan it carefully and that if it's well designed and it's well staffed. So we'll start with Harrington and, begin from there. We anticipate, though, if it is successful and if we are able to expand with space, that we would do that as well.
Okay, and, I was concerned about starting at Connery, to be honest with you. I was thinking that we were a little in over our heads and still not at the point where we totally know if we're successful in this or not. I mean, I know that they're raving and they're saying you're successful, but until we actually see kids taking, the state tests and things like that, then that's where we see it, And honestly, I think when we did take a vote on it, I thought it was a pilot program. When we did vote for a pilot program, and it's moving along. It's not a question that it's not moving along, but it was a pilot program when we voted on that.
You can check the language on that, Bill.
Yeah, sure, it's okay, but, okay, thank you.
I will just note that that graph there, the research, that Massachusetts is very new in dual language programming, right? It really came to be in 2017. But nationwide research of dual language programs really does indicate clearly and consistently that it is the best program for our English learners to close the opportunity gap.
Yeah, Dr. Talwala.
Just to build on that, if you recall at our last meeting when we did the sort of update on the Student Opportunity Act, dual language programming is now considered one of the acceptable research-based programs that SOA funds can be used to support. And interestingly, that was not there, 2 years ago when they, released the 17 or so evidence-based programs, but now it is. So that's just part of that evolution. And we're thrilled for that.
Member Castellanos.
First of all, thank you for your presentation, always comprehensive and very informative. I want to really just to highlight, I am also Latino. I was born in Caracas, Venezuela. My mother, Lima, Peru, and my father was from Monterrey, Venezuela. So I do have family members who were ESL students, special ed students, and when I think Amanda, you answered one of my questions about the kindergarten, the pre-K piece, that's inclusion component to it, because I was curious to see how that's gonna unfold. I also want to just thank you for some of the program highlights in your structure. The bilingual pipeline of educators piece. That's crucial, because I did have a question about staffing capacity, especially if we are committed, like you said. It's when I was here when we first started. I remember when this came in front of us, and I remember the passion then, and I see the passion now, and I see the commitment across the district, and we see the need. That's a very important. That's the needs there, but also when it comes to just how we implement and move forward. There are some reserves around just, we have Harrington as our model right now. We're looking and we're finding a lot of success. And now we're going to the one-way model at Connery, which you guys did all your work. You guys are very sharp. You did your due diligence in terms of what that demographic looks like, why the model we're going to use, the approach we're going to take. Do you feel like, and I see that there is that professional development component. I see that you guys are, everyone's moving in that direction. Could you just talk a little bit about what that, that operation, because that's the piece because we have one phase of, we have Harrington, we're still going there. We're moving there, and now we're at Connery. Could you just kind of give me some information or elaborate on that more?
Sure, definitely. Do you mean, just so I answer it correctly, do you mean in terms of our staffing or in terms of how both programs are going to be running and getting off the ground?
Yes, operational, please. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Yep. So one of the most important things for dual language that we highlight often is shared leadership, shared ownership, and shared knowledge. The work that we do is never living with just one single person. You see two of us here presenting, but, you know, supporting us, like we mentioned in our presentation, are two amazing building principals who've been building up their dual language knowledge, taking bilingual endorsement coursework, attending PD, facilitating PD. They themselves each have their own instructional leadership teams who are participating in all of that same PD, facilitating all of that PD, with the idea that we support them in whatever way they need. We help facilitate the initial opening of the program, but ultimately, you know, the program is at their building. The program lives within their school walls, and it's really important for them. They also feel that importance of being able to understand it, own it, support it, and lead that work as well. And so that's sort of how we manage it at two buildings, is by building up not necessarily like our own leadership of that program, but building up the knowledge of that leadership team to take on that program as it goes. So we spend a lot of time supporting building leaders, supporting teachers, putting coaches into place so that each program can continue to run, regardless of how much support we're there to provide day to day. So at the outset, we spend a lot of time in our dual language buildings. We work really closely with them. Then we slowly, you know, the principal, it's sort of like hand in hand. They also do the work side by side with us, so that they can take over and own that. You know, it eventually will be half of each building. It's really important that they can completely lead that work with support from us, of course.
And I appreciate you mentioning that piece, and with the principals, outreach is important. And what does that look like right now at Connery for numbers? What do we do? I remember when Harrington first was rolled out, the outreach was robust and it was fabulous. I've seen so many positive features of that plan. What do we did we? And it's again, we're going to a different school with a different model. What does that outreach strategy look like?
Hold on, I just want to also add in terms of the school building implementation that when you have a dual language, one classroom in a building, it becomes a dual language school. So that professional development and support starts with that leadership team, but there are plans even in this initial launch that the whole building is receiving professional development and training on what dual language is, why it's important, because we don't want a dual language program to be a separate entity in a building. It is a dual language school, and that is professional development that happens building wide.
Great point. So in terms of outreach, it's much the same. We work closely with the principal, with the parent liaisons to work. We currently meet with every kindergarten family that registers for Harrington or Connery to go over the program with them. We already have initial requests to enroll in both programs at both schools. I think over the past month, we've had about 70% of families express interest in the program as they registered at Harrington, and I think just slightly below that at Connery. I'd have to double check today's numbers because kids come every day. But so we have seen a lot of excitement around the program. Obviously, it's not for every family. The hallmark is that it's parental choice. You choose what makes the most sense for you and for your family. But the vast majority of families express almost immediate interest as they enroll.
I appreciate that. And my last point is, be quick, I swear. It's going to be about the grant award that we got for $299,000. Anytime we get grants, it's a big deal. I think it takes a lot of work to establish those and retrieve those funds. Were there any stipulations to those funds? Like, in the application, did we, I know when we check off certain features of a grant application, were there any like have-tos that could conflict with us, like in terms of just expanding, or is there barriers to those funds, or is it all $299? You guys want it, you can spend it as you like.
It's like a within reason. So
okay,
we write out
the
application and say, this is what we want to spend it on. They approve what we say we're going to spend it on or not. So we can spend it on what we said we're going to spend it on. We couldn't, book a trip to Disney or something.
Yeah, of course.
But, within reason, like from the outline that we've written for the grant, and we sort of provided that outline of what we've requested the funds for, and so we're able to spend those free and clear. And typically, they've been very flexible as needs arise. If we want to switch funds around, they're very amenable to an amendment if it's within the spirit of the original grant.
Well, that's what I was asking. When I seen the points, and it always your needs change, evolve. Especially as you discover challenges or obstacles that could be. It was good that you could amend it. And
our goal is always to write it broadly
Yeah.
enough that it can support a variety of needs rather than so specifically that you kind of back yourself into a specific corner. But if we ever did need to amend it, we've done that before and they've been great about it.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for the presentation. Really appreciate the update. Also, we want to thank, the principals, the teachers, all the staff that have allowed these non-negotiables to come to life. And of course, the students and families that jumped into this with both feet. And really, really exciting. Congratulations on the progress so far, and thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice job.
All right, next item on the agenda is exit interviews. Member Capola.
Okay. We've been talking about this at different times, probably about for the last 5 years or so. Meaning an exit interview for staff that are leaving. Whether it's an in-person interview or it's an online interview or paper interview, whatever it is. Only because, over time, we've always had staff who are leaving, and I know last time it was mentioned that, it's because people are moving or whatever, but I think sometimes it's more than just that, it could be wages, it could be, a large school district, they want smaller, or whatever it is, and it would help us to find out what it is and how we can retain staff. And that's simply what it is. We talked about it before when Barbara was here. Then Barbara went out, and then, of course, it was just somebody who was filling in. And, you can't put a burden like that on. So we did talk about it just before we were putting the job description out for the human resources job. We talked about could that person do that, and that seemed to be a go. And so anyway, she's been here 6 months, and so I thought it was time to make a motion that we come up with an exit, interview process, up to the Human Resources Department, but something that will be useful for you, the superintendent, and others in your administration to really get a handle on people leaving and try to retain them rather than lose them in whatever support we can do.
We've got good news for you in that
You got one.
we do have a draft of one, and the research around this is pretty simple. There's an organization that has developed what it thinks is a useful, robust exit interview. We've looked at the exit interview, and it's a survey essentially, with an opportunity. One of the last questions is, would you like to meet with someone to talk about your experience or why you're leaving? We've looked at the exit interviews for 5, maybe 6, what I would consider peer districts, and they're identical to the one that the organization has created. I'm happy to bring that before the committee at our next meeting to discuss it. My one caution is that in talking with leadership and human resources personnel in those peer districts, the completion rate is really low, like 10–15%. And so that means that 80+%, 90% are walking away without necessarily giving you that feedback. That's my only caution. I do think it's a worthy endeavor, and when you look at the questions, there's a lot that the district can learn about, why people seek employment elsewhere or are leaving the district.
Okay, great. So could that be put on the next agenda? And
Certainly.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Next is discussion on results of the superintendent survey. Member Gately.
Well, Patrick, you did well. This survey was agreed upon by everybody on the school committee, and then Dr. Tutwiler, myself, and committee member John Ford, we sat down and we decided to use the questions that align to your goals. Correct?
One minor change, they weren't aligned to my goals, they were aligned to the standards in the evaluation.
Okay, thank you.
And that, one could, that's up for interpretation, but I could make connections between the standards in there.
Yes, I think it was Member Castellanos asked us to do that, align it so it'd make it easier to do our evaluation. I will apologize to you and the members with the way I printed out the comments. I put it in ascendant order because so many people were like, oh, they're going to know who I was, and please don't do this, and make sure it's anonymous. So I just took it and went ascending. So that's why when you read through it, if it doesn't make, a lot of sense, or if it's chopped, it's alphabetical. So that's why. I wasn't surprised with the results. I don't know if any members were. I always knew that you were well-liked, but one of my purposes was, and the constituent that asked me to do this work, this person just really wanted you to know how people were feeling, and I think that came out with what we have. So we can use this for your evaluation or not. Do you have anything you want to ask me?
I don't think so.
Any feedback?
On the survey?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Member Castellanos.
Member Gately, were you all set?
Yes.
First of all, I just want to say thank you, Member Gately, for bringing that to the forefront and everyone just working at that. And I want to first of all thank the superintendent for being very receptive of this process. And I was trying to formulate like what I want to really. I read through all of it, and it was a lot. And I just still, from the day that we interviewed you to now, I am not shocked. We've been very impressed, and we appreciate you. I appreciate you, your leadership, and to be always on the forefront of being critically analyzed. We do get publicly analyzed, you do too, and to go through that process is I appreciate it, and I thank you. And I do look forward to the evaluation process, and it's definitely, it does give us, it's another tool to us as we move forward, proceed with your evaluation. But I just, the communication piece was, you're there, and you also just had 2 years of a pandemic. There was things in our leadership that we weren't prepared for. There was no manual. There was no proper way of doing things. And I believe that, you stepped up, and I just want to put that in the air. So thank you.
Member Capola.
Yeah. I think when it comes to you, I think it's how we feel on the committee. You're a great guy,
Thank
and
you.
your heart is there to do a good job. But I loved, the comment part of it, because it really gave us a picture of our system and, how people are satisfied with things and how they're frustrated with things. And, from whether the schools are cleaned properly, we spend a lot of money. Like I talked to Kevin the other day, and on our warrants this month was almost $300,000 for an outside company to clean. And I think that's a 1-month bill. And when
That was to sanitize, just to be clear, but go ahead.
okay, just to sanitize. But cleaning, we pay an outside company to clean, and we hear it over and over again. People are letting us know it's dirty. There's no reason for our schools to be dirty. We're spending a lot of money on that, so there is no reason for that. And then just for the for our staff that feel overwhelmed, to have an avenue to speak about that, and for us to really appreciate that and do something with it, wrap ourselves around that and see how we can do that. Because some of what people say in here is, I think, some of the stuff that drives people away. It's not you that drives people away, but it's some of the stuff that just is in here, comment-wise, the people who answered it, which is still, I know Dorothy Pressman said that it was an excellent amount of people that responded to it, an excellent amount, and I have to agree. And there were a lot of people who were very good, and then there were some who were afraid. They still thought that, somebody was going to find out that they answered things and whatever. But I think it's still a really good tool for you in the administration to be able to, look at and see that we have areas that we can improve on, most definitely, and but I have no surprises in there, as people call us, and are concerned about different things, it was the same things in there, and so I just would like you to use it as a tool just to see and try to maybe use it to make some changes in some areas to improve on it. And I'm not saying improve on yourself, because people were clear that, you're a person that they appreciate. But it's areas, and you may not even be aware of those areas because you have a whole system. So that's all. But I want to say that I want to thank Lorraine for doing that. I mean, I can't imagine what you went through to gather it all up, and then when it was delivered, you know what I mean, the size of it and everything that was in it, and I said, people put it, I'm going to go through the whole thing. I'm going to read every single thing that somebody wrote, and it, believe me, was time-consuming, but well worth it for me as a school committee person to see, and thank you.
Member Gailey?
And I was just wondering if maybe we could do it again next year, because then we could see improvements, like comments that would say, like a feedback of, hey, I've seen a huge improvement in this, or in communications, or I have to work really hard now, Patrick, on buildings and grounds. I'm telling you, this document told me how bad they really are, and will be my major area, but I would like to do it again next year. We'll sit down, maybe another school committee member could sit with us prior to it, after we establish, your goals or whatever. But I really appreciated you doing that, and I hope when I don't know if you read through it, but when you do, you're going to see how well liked you are in this district and how respected you are in this district. And there are certain things that people would like you to be aware of, that's all. And share it with your administration staff or whatever. But, okay, that's all, thanks.
Thank you, yeah, and thank you, Member Gailey, for your work on this, and Member Ford as well. I'm sure he's out there watching. No, thank you, Member Gailey, and thank you, Dr. Teltweiler. Thank you to all those who submitted the responses. We appreciate everyone's time to craft those. Oh, yes, yep.
I just wanted to express my appreciation for Dr. Tutwiler. I can't give you the perspective of a parent, but as a student, you have been very receptive and very welcoming, especially during the pandemic. All over social media, students would personally email you, and you would reply back personally. And that was amazing to see, because I would expect like a secretary to respond, because you're a superintendent and you're probably loaded with work, but you would personally respond and provide us with information, and it would be very helpful. And during times where we had concerns in our schools, you would respond and you would step up and you would advocate for the students, and you would understand us and see where we were coming from. I've seen
many times around the news where superintendents usually try to silence the students and not cause major controversy, but you always step up to the plate and you always raise the voices of the students, which I appreciate greatly. So I want to thank you for that.
That means a lot. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you for sharing that. That's very, very powerful and very meaningful that you shared that tonight. So thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you to Member Gately again, and those who submitted the survey. I think Dr. Tutwiler from the very beginning has really established an effort to create a culture of transparency and feedback. And I think it's something that we should all aspire to, is to be open to that level of feedback. And it's only to the benefit of the students of the Lynn Public Schools to have that that culture that Dr. Tutwiler is leading with, that level of receptivity and strive to improvement. And I think that not only comes through in the comments, but also in the conversation that we're having this evening. So really appreciate that, Dr. Tutwiler, and to all the committee members who make that possible. So thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda is discussion on redistricting Lynn Woods and Shoemaker Streets.
No, I'm good. The mask covers up the runny nose, so we just keep going. Runny nose and all. But thank you for that. That really means a lot. This evening, and sorry, we have two principals here who are here to answer questions. We'd like to make a proposal to shift the assignment addresses slightly between Shoemaker and Lynn Woods Elementary Schools. While the shift is slight, it presents the potential for a significant impact to both schools and would solve specific challenges. Before I describe the rationale and the desired impact, I want to make clear that this proposal is designed to impact future enrollees. It will not impact any existing Lynn Public School students attending either school. This includes students who currently attend, who have younger siblings who've yet to enroll. Further, the proposal does not run afoul the district desegregation plan, and there's a memo in your packet from Attorney Gallo, our compliance officer, offering his opinion on that. And there's also a map, which I was going to have on this screen up here, but if we need it, we can project it. There are two important reasons we're asking you to consider the shift. The first is to create a better balance between students with disabilities and those in regular education at Shoemaker Elementary School beginning in kindergarten. At present, there are 2 kindergarten classes at Shoemaker serving 32 students. One is integrated. 63% of the students in that class are students with disabilities. This trend has occurred over the course of years. For example, currently in grade 1, the integrated section is 62% students with disabilities. Bear in mind that the ideal balance would involve 30% students with disabilities or 50% at most. A shift in the assignment addresses could potentially allow for class sizes at Lynn Woods to become more manageable. The current kindergarten class at Lynn Woods has 28 students. This has been a typical class size at Lynn Woods for some time. Typically, in cases where class sizes become large, we hire an additional teacher and create an additional section. As you know, there is finite space at Lynn Woods and no additional classrooms to support reducing class size. If I could draw your attention, and there should be a map with brown and yellow markings on it in your packet. If I could draw your attention to that map, I'd like to explain why we selected those streets. You'll notice that Phaeton Rock Road, shaded in brown, is in the Shoemaker district already. So it made sense to include the streets surrounding it, those that are shaded in yellow. Historically, students that have come to Shoemaker from Lynn Woods off the wait list by family choice have frequently come from the two neighborhoods highlighted in yellow. So there's already a history here. In total, we see this as a small shift that could provide immediate impact. I want to underscore the word could, because we're talking future, and we can't guarantee that children who are not of age to attend kindergarten currently, live in or will move to the streets highlighted in yellow. Nonetheless, this seems like a prudent approach that would not disrupt any current students and families. We're happy to respond to any questions that you have, myself or the principals.
Member Capola.
Would you be, could it be an option for parents sooner than that if they are in the Lynn Woods and they would prefer to opt? Would you be offering that?
Yeah, I mean,
You're saying it's only new ones, and that's what I'm wondering if.
Sure, I mean, that happens yearly, that families from this neighborhood or families in scenarios that don't, where there's not a disruption or violation to the desegregation plan, go on the wait list from Lynn Woods to go to Shoemaker. That already happens, so we would welcome that.
Okay, has anybody checked the wait list to see if there are students on the wait list?
There's no one.
There's nobody on the wait list.
All students that were.
Do you mind? Because they won't be able to hear you unless you're, come on down, Ellen. You too, please.
This year, we accepted all students off the wait list.
Okay.
And one of the things that has happened in the past is that I do frequently at Shoemaker have kids that are on the wait list from Lynn Woods, but sometimes what happens is it's the last minute that, it's that end of August time that it's happening. And so like this year, I had a few that actually chose to just stay at Lynn Woods because it was so late, but historically, we have accepted everyone off the wait list, and certainly if there were students that were in those neighborhoods and wanted to come now, we certainly have space at Shoemaker.
Yeah, because if people put their children on that wait list, I know what you mean. We don't do that wait list till like the week before school, and parents have got it in their heads, their kids have got it in their head, this is where I'm going. So maybe in that situation, we should, if people put their children's names on there, we should take that list and move it earlier so that, that's an obvious thing. The other thing is there any building up on these streets that we see new families coming in? Does anybody know that?
There's some houses that are on Vieira.
That are being built?
I think that, yeah.
Yeah, Vieira Drive doesn't look like it's on that, though.
No, is that?
You wrote it, but I see, but we don't.
Yeah,
it's gonna be.
Oh, it's highlighted yellow. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just looking down at these yellow ones here. Okay, all right, yeah, so could possibly
have an impact. Yep.
Member Castellanos.
In terms of just if moving forward with this proposal, outreach and communication, getting that out there. If we take the shift and we start to move forward with this, what are we? You probably already are you prepping people, prepping your staff, if folks even started communicating that this is a possible? Because I got constituents reaching out with all sorts of. Maybe this might not be a question for you. Maybe it might be a question for the district, and maybe developing a fact sheet or some sort of, after we move forward, with resolutions, like you said, your proposal, like what you just read, just clarified a lot of questions. I had a lot of questions that were just checked off. Maybe putting together some information, and then we could share it, all of us collaboratively, so we could clear the air. That would be very helpful, just because I started getting questions. I didn't have the information at the time, so this was very clear. I feel like the telephone game sometimes happens. When people talk about redistricting, we're talking to our compliance office. We were looking and to figure out what was really happening, because we have constituents who reach out in many different avenues. So I do appreciate that.
Member Pena, yeah.
Just to echo on what Member Castellanos said, It would be helpful to, some information. And like you said, you answered all my questions with your report, so it'd be nice to have that information to, to spread out to constituents.
Yeah, the order of operations is to have the discussion here, and rather than, we could have potentially put the proposal out there with all of this information, but I'd much rather do one communication that is complete with your approval. So depending on the outcome of this evening, then we can go and communicate to those families.
Thank you, Dr.
Member Capola.
Well, I know you want to get it out as soon as you can, but I was thinking that, what you just gave today is at least more information for parents and, could be put in a thing and sent home to parents. Maybe with an option that if some of them were interested in moving from Lynn Woods over there. But if, I'm just thinking, we had so many questions, and there are so many people in probably those two schools that have no idea that this is going on, and they're going to panic when they find out we voted on it. I'd like to see us get the notice out that this is something we're going to do, but it's up to other people too, whether, it could go two ways. It could go that, people hear about it and they'll find we've answered enough questions and we do the vote and there's no problem. And another being, we could have a room full of people that are angry that it's happening, so.
Member Magnolia.
Out of curiosity, about how many students do we think this is going to affect that would move from school to school?
Like on a yearly basis, I think it's only going to be 3 or 4 students that are like in that neighborhood that would come to me at Shoemaker from maybe Lynn Woods. And again, that could change. That changes from year to year. It just depends on the students that are entering. There could be 2 some years.
We counted up currently it would impact 6 students, I think, total.
Okay.
And which doesn't, naturally, we're not having anyone move. If you're part of the community, you're staying. So right now it would be 6. We don't know. We can't project whether that number would be higher or lower. And again, my numbers are just high enough where it's making it a little bit uncomfortable. So we're thinking this was just a starting point. And we may have hit the mark, we may have not hit the mark. But we just thought that because they are geographically close to the streets that are already going to Shoemaker, we're being pretty mindful of that. Kids want to be with their neighborhood kids. And so again, it was just a starting point to see how it would impact our numbers moving forward.
Like I have 4 families right now that are in my school that came off the wait list for just 2 of those streets.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? So I think the question for the committee then is, would people rather make this change now or have more time to invite people? Member Gately?
Will it make a difference if we wait till the next meeting to vote on it?
This is registration time. I would rather do it right and have families, the community, yourselves feel comfortable with it. So if you prefer, what we could do is get information out to families in both school communities that clarifies what this is all about and inform them that a decision will be made on the 31st. But then we would lose the month of March, essentially, for
People register.
it could have, but that could be zero impact because there might not be any families registering kids
from those streets.
Yeah,
Right.
right. So I'm comfortable with that, but
It's just that, for
Can I
me,
just
it's
say-
the
Could-
All right,
transparency.
so hold on.
Couldn't you have
We got
registered-
Lorraine
sorry,
was,
I
yeah, that's
apologize.
okay, yep.
It's the transparency of it, so that those families know that this is what we're planning on doing. And we'll probably, support you on this.
So my concern with like communicating with Ellen and I's current families is that this actually isn't impacting any of the current families. So the people who it's actually going to impact are those families that are walking into or online registering now. And so if we're communicating with our current families, unless they're knocking on their neighbors' doors and telling them, like, that's not going to get the message. Do you know what I'm saying?
They
Like,
wouldn't
so
know it.
I don't know, the families that are coming in are the ones that are going to be impacted more than, no one currently is going to be impacted.
But I do agree that there's some confusion out there, so we
Yeah.
probably need to communicate. We wanted to be respectful of the process and obviously put this in front of you folks first. But I think we're both pretty eager to let people know what's going on so that we can, clear up their confusion.
All right, so I think I have Member Capola, Member Pena, and then Member Magnolia, and then Member Castellanos.
I was only going to say that, if registration is happening now, families on those particular streets could be told that there's a possibility that we're going to change the streets. And so, I mean, that could be alleviated without people going from, neighbor to neighbor. And just to alleviate that problem, we could ask them to do that.
Member Pena.
Yes, I agree with putting out there, getting feedback from the families. It had a little more transparency and, not a surprise to people. And we can get some feedback and then we could decide how we feel about it.
Member Magnolia.
I'm going to respectfully disagree with my colleagues, and the reason why is I remember when I registered my daughter for school, the big, what they call the kindergarten push time right now, and if you've never registered your kid for school before, like, that's a lot of information coming at you. And so to make things easier for those folks, as opposed to people who already have kids in the schools, I think would be a higher priority. And what I mean by that is we can take a vote now, and the communication that goes out can say, the school committee took a vote to include these schools now in the Shoemaker district, and here is why, with all of the information that Dr. Tutwiler gave. I see this as a 6 of one, half a dozen of another. Like, there are upsides and downsides to doing it both ways, and just remembering the panic of being a new parent and registering my kid for school. I had like reams of paperwork trying to remember every single vaccination report, the this, the that, and if I had to also be told, oh, it could be the other school too, I think I would have freaked out. And so I want to be sensitive to those parents who would be like, wait, you mean I don't really know where my kid is going to school? That, to me, is a higher emotional burden on those families than families who already have kids in the schools who might be hearing hearsay from neighbors, if that makes sense. And that's just from my own personal experience, but I remember it well.
Member Castellanos.
So I was going to put out a motion, but now I'm just after Dr. Magnolia presented that. So how would we formulate a vote or a motion to, I guess it would be a motion to move forward with waiting to get the information? How would we, I think I wanted to go to Attorney Greenspan on how to move forward with that motion, just so I can, if we have to vote on it tonight, we will.
Could either table this to the next meeting or approve the plan as presented. Either motion.
So can I make a motion to table this proposal until the 31st of March? In respects to more information sharing to constituents and the constituents that are impacted in their certain neighborhoods, and the list is right in front of us.
Second.
I'd like to second that.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Dr. Magnolia?
No.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Mayor Nicholson?
Yes. Thank you so much.
I'll call you tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right, discussion on CDC's recommendation for masks on buses. So last time this was discussed at the committee, the committee voted to remove the mask requirement as of March 14th, but that did not include buses because of the federal requirement and state requirement that masks be worn on buses. That has been lifted, and so the district is now free to extend the removal of the mask requirement to buses. And this was something that the public health director discussed with the LPS public health team, as well as our local partners, the Lynn Community Health Center, and felt comfortable doing. But I'll let Dr. Tutwiler.
Yeah, the mayor has pretty much said it all. There's unanimity around the belief that it is safe to proceed with removing or going mask optional on buses. You got data yesterday. You would have seen that as of days in yesterday, we only had 8 cases, 8 positive cases in the district. It's really low. Our vaccination rates continue to go up. There are more and more families participating in the voluntary at-home testing program. Since the very beginning, we've followed the consult and advice of our local medical professionals, and I don't think now is the time to depart from that. So this has my support also.
Any questions or comments from the committee?
Make a motion to allow no masks on buses. I forget the date that we have for the others.
March 14th.
To coincide with March 14th for in-school.
Second that.
Motion made, second, roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Magnolia?
Yes.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Mayor Nicholson?
Yes. Great, so the next item on the agenda is the vote to submit a statement of interest to the MSBA for an accelerated repair project at Druitt's Elementary for windows and doors. Do you have any comments on that?
None at all, other than we're excited to proceed with this project.
Great.
Okay, make a motion that, that we submit a statement of interest, and I will read, resolved, having convened in an open meeting on March 3rd, 2022, prior to the state of interest closing date, the Lynn School Committee, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated March 25th, 2022, for the Alphonse M. Druitt's Elementary School, 34 Hood Street, Lynn, Massachusetts, 01905, which describes and explains the following deficiencies in the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the School Building Authority in the future. Replacement, renovation, or modernization of school facility systems such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating, and ventilation systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs in a school facility. The city is seeking to replace the windows and doors in the school due to their age and condition. Estimated installation date in the early 1980s as priority statement of interest for the MSBA Accelerated Repair Program for 2022, and hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits City of Lynn or the Lynn School District to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Magnolia?
Yes.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Mayor Nicholson?
Yes. All right, votes taken in the Personnel Subcommittee. Member Capola.
Yes, we did take and move forward a job for, let's see, communications specialist. Don't need me to read it, do you?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that in the form of motion?
That's in the form of the motion.
Second.
So moved.
Motion made, second, roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Magnolia?
Yes.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Mayor Nicholson?
Yes. Great. Would entertain a motion to amend the agenda to move the executive session to the last item of business.
So moved.
Any seconds?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Dr. Tutwiler, communications information.
Yep. Quickly, there's an enrollment report in your packets, as well as a copy of the superintendent's report. In it, I discuss some of the improvements we've made in human resources to streamline processes, create a more customer-friendly experience, both for existing staff and prospective staff. And as it relates to, the month of March, through really the summertime is when schools are really busy doing their hiring. And toward that end, our efforts to have a more robust presence on social media to attract the best and the brightest. We'll also add that we are in the development phase of something new that I don't know that I've seen this anywhere else, but typically staff, when they're hired in the Lynn Public Schools, it's kind of hard to figure out what your salary will be. And so we worked with the same company that does our part-time worksheets and other business-related operations to create a salary calculator. So someone would be able to go on our website, enter their years of experience, their education, so forth and so on, and it would give them an estimated salary. And there's a huge disclaimer under there, right? Because we need to do that, but we think that will help demystify what people would make if they join our team, and we hope that will be an additional piece that works in attracting staff. There's also mention of some really exciting data related to graduation and dropout. This data was released publicly. It's on the DESE website right before February vacation. Our dropout rate graduation rate, 4-year graduation rate for the class of 2021 was 84.1%. That is the highest graduation rate researchable on DESE's school profile website, which dates back 15 years. I need to acknowledge that there were some flexibilities that were offered districts, but I don't take anything away from the work that the teachers have done and the students have done. Equally, our dropout rate is at 3.1%. That data goes back 13 years on DESE's website, and that's the lowest that it has been in that period of time. There was no flexibility offered relative to that data point, and so I am thrilled about that particular data point, and we will present this in more robust fashion, I believe, at our next meeting. It might be the one after that. And then finally, just a brief update on the Pickering Building Project. As you know, Mr. Donovan came and presented and gave you a bird's eye view of the process timeline. It is underway. The building committee meeting has met 3 times, 2 times the whole group, 1 time a subcommittee. We have actually this week the request for services for an owner's project manager will go up with hopes of interviewing the top 3 respondents by the end of the month, March 28th. Thereafter, we will submit our selection of the owner's project manager to the School Building Authority in early April. So much as we did with the eligibility period, we are moving as quickly as we can on every aspect of it, but still want to caution it's still going to take a long time. That is all I have.
Yeah, Member Castellanos and Member Capola.
Dr. Tutwiler, thank you so much for your report. As always, very helpful. I just want to share, I'm going to leave alone the percentages that we talked about. I don't want to get into that conversation because I can go all day on why I feel like those numbers were that way, we could leave it for a different day. I want to talk about the building project, the Pickering Building Committee that's been formed. Myself, Member Gately, and the mayor, and there's been numerous stakeholders, folks engaging on this process. But we're all ambassadors as school committee officials. Everyone here at this table, you guys all play a major role. We're all together on this. And as you can imagine, we're looking to make sure that this process is completed. And part of our roles as elected officials is to ensure transparency within the process, to ensure communications getting out there. There was a website that was developed. We shared it at our last meeting, and I know the mayor's team is putting together some fact sheets because there's so much information that gets tossed around on social media and within your own constituents. You hear big, claims and questions, and sometimes we don't know how to really go about how answering those. So I know that the mayor's team is working on that, and that's just and for the big pictures. We need that middle school. It's for the kids, and we got to do whatever it takes as ambassadors of that process, and always feel that you can reach out. And it's very important that we collaborate together because we all have channels of constituents, that we work together with, and to whatever length that we need to successfully implement and do this, we're all in this together. And I really appreciate everyone that's part of it, and I look forward to April 6th and going forward in the process. And it is a longer process, and if you guys have questions, concerns, please share them with the members of there's a whole list of the committee members on the website. It gives updates, it gives a whole robust, just even in layman's terms, because it's a very complex process. The MSBA process is very complex, and it's not easy to just explain every person that you meet about the history of why the last school. Folks want to take you down that rabbit hole. It's important to give facts and where we're at now so we can move forward in this process, so we can be successful in this process.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Castellanos. Member Capola, Member Magnolia.
When is bumping and bidding starting?
Oh, yeah.
The March posting, I don't know that we've identified a date, but
Dates haven't been formalized yet, but it
Okay.
will be in March.
Okay, because I would like to see whether we have a personnel subcommittee, but look at how the ELL jobs, for the ELL support, supporting the students that need that extra support, how it's being posted.
Sure.
Because sometimes there's people within classrooms that would be interested in that.
Sure.
And so, sometimes let's say maybe they are in the Ingalls School teaching, but they would prefer to stay in the Ingalls School. And I know sometimes it's a very broad, it's not identified where the job is.
They're
And then
itinerant.
people don't
They're
want to
itinerant,
take it.
Mrs. Capola.
Yeah.
right.
And that, so there's been staff who have said that that's a job I would be interested in, but what school, they would like to know the schools if when you're doing posting. That's all, I don't know if you can do that, but, and whether we have to have a policy subcommittee, to kind of lay out and just question it, but.
Member Magnolia.
I had a question from a parent, and it stumped me, so I want to put it to you, Superintendent.
Try me.
Okay. Is it a conflict of interest for the principals whose elementary schools will feed into Pickering to publish the information about how parents can access the committee hearings? I thought it wasn't because we're not voting on anything. They were sort of thinking of what happened in Swampscott when they were voting on that school, and there was the whole thing about whether the principal was allowed to say they were in favor or against the school because there was a town vote on it. I said, in this case, there's nothing like that. I don't think so. So before I made the suggestion, that the principals send out, you know, and all those emails that the parents get. Here's how you can access the committee hearings or the information on the middle school. I wanted to confirm that there was no conflict of interest in principals doing that.
I can't think of any. In fact, I think that would be part of their duty to
Yes.
share how families can follow along and have questions answered.
I'll take a look at it and get some more information on it.
So if it's not a conflict of interest, I would urge you to have those principals send out that information as the mayor develops tools to families who's, you know, who are in that catchment area for Pickering. I think that specifically reaching out to them in that way, they're used to getting communication about school information, will really go just as far as all the other means.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Okay. And if there's a conflict of interest, then that's a separate issue, but,
Follow up on that.
yeah.
Thank you. All right, so next item on the agenda is a request for executive session relative to contract negotiations with non-union personnel.
Make a motion that we move into executive session.
Second.
Motion made, seconded, roll call, please.
Member Castellanos?
Yes.
Member Capola?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Gately?
Yes.
Member Magnolia?
Yes.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Mayor Nicholson?
Yes. No.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Not for that one.
Nope.
All set.
All set.
All set.
According to,
Attorney,
have a nice night, everybody.
9:37, hey, that's not bad.
9:37.
We confused you, huh, Deb?
Oh, they get longer.